So now we'll introduce the next section. Welcome for those of you who would join. We'll have another session on digital identity and e-signature. So maybe we go to the next slide. I don't see I have a clipper. So I'll introduce quickly Clément and Eric from Tessi. So quick anecdote. Come on stage. Quick anecdote from me. So I travel the world and I help a number of organizations expand. And literally over the last 3 weeks, I've been battling with an Australian bank called Commonwealth Bank. And I'm a director of a few companies, and it's always a nightmare just to sign a document with a traditional bank. So hopefully you'll help us solve that problem. So we save some paper, trees, notary fees, and all the above. So welcome on stage, Clément and Eric.
Is it working? Yes, perfect. So thank you for joining us on this keynote. So you will see that we are speaking about something completely different from the previous session. So we will speak about digital identity and e-signatures. So it's something quite new for some people, for others not very new, because in fact we have been speaking about e-signatures since almost 20 years. Digital identity is quite new, but in fact people don't really know what it is, what we can do with it. And as you were speaking, sometimes you are struggling with banks or others administration, you want to sign documents, it's quite difficult. You will hear also we have French, so we have some notes because it's quite dense topic and we want to cover today. So I'm Clément Savoie on my side, so I'm the director of the digital trust activity of Tessi. And so I'm working at Innovation&trust, this is the digital factory of Tessi, and I'm with Eric.
Yes, hello, I'm Eric. I'm sales director in a team of Clément, and I'm very happy to be here today.
So we can maybe sit and it will be easier. So as I was saying, we will speak about e-signatures and digital identity. If I speak about it right now, in fact, it seems a little bit complex or complicated, but it's not. You have been all in touch with digital identity. If I compare the digital identity or the e-signatures with something you are doing on a daily basis, I can say if you are able to pay on a website, you will know what is a digital signature. In fact, for the very first level of signature with an SMS code you can sign. So it's something very easy, but as soon as we will deep dive into signature levels and we want to go a bit higher in terms of security, you will see that there is layers of things on top of it. It could be a bit complex to understand all the complexity of it. So I will let Eric to explain what was the signatures in the past.
Yes, of course. I will start with digital identity. So the last 30 years, we have seen a very important revolution in the field of digital identity. What was simply anonymous information at the beginning has become a much broader and more complex concept. Digital identity now encompasses personal information, biometrics, and increasing control over our online interaction. It's now in the heart of economic, legal, and social issues in our connected world. And this evolution is far from over, especially with the rise of technologies such as artificial intelligence. The 2010s marked the turning point with the explosion of digital services. Whether it's social networking, e-commerce, banking services, they all rely on digital identity to ensure the security and the identification of users. In the face of this diversity, digital identity has been transformed to play a central role in our daily lives. Today, it's no longer limited to traditional identifier like password, but it's become multimodal, including biometric fingerprints or faces, phone number, and many other elements in response of the growing needs for security and personalization. However, with this development has become the increase of the risk associated with cybercrime and identity theft. The rapid growth of the internet has paved the way for an increase in cyber attack, hacking and personal data, and identity theft. This has highlighted the critical importance of protecting privacy, prompting government, businesses, and citizens to seek new solutions to protect this precious digital identity.
Yes, you're right. And at the same time, in fact, we have seen electronic signature usage growing and growing and growing. In fact, as soon as you want to sign a document with a bank, as soon as you want to do something remotely, you are normally asked to do something with a digital signature. So we have seen a lot of different ways to sign digitally. And if I speak about what we were doing in the past, and particularly in the 90s, because we have started to really use the signatures in France in 1999. In fact, it was completely different from what we are doing today. If I compare today with what we were doing 20, 25 years ago, it's completely different, in fact. Back in the past, you were obliged to have what we are calling a USB token. So you were obliged to install something like a flat client on your IT solution. So in fact, it was very complex to do a digital signature. It was very specific digital signatures, but also very specific usage. It was completely impossible to do a remote signature. It was completely impossible to do, if you want to do a signature in a bus, in a train station, or whatever you want, impossible. So in fact, it was very limited usage. And now, in fact, we have been facing a lot of demands and requests to sign digital documents. Digital transactions are completely exploding in terms of number of transactions. We were speaking about banks, we were speaking about other things, but let's say you want to buy a car, you want to do, in fact, quite everything, you will be requested to do a digital signature. And right now, in fact, you are able to do a digital signature, but the theft and the identity issue we can have are very important. Let me just go back to my notes. So in fact, yeah, in 1999, it was the very beginning. We have seen by leaps and bounds the digital signatures growing, and now we are facing something very important where in fact we are all looking for secure solution. So it's very important to be sure that I'm signing, Eric is signing, but it's also possible to do a fake digital signature. If it's a simple one with a very low level of verification, ID verification, if Eric is letting his iPad open on his desktop, I can do a digital signature under his name. But as soon as I will go and I ask for secure information, for personal data, to be able to check the digital identity, in fact, I will not be able to do a fake signature. So this is why also we are increasing the level of signatures. But back in the time, and particularly back in 1999, it was not possible. It was only a USB token. So as soon as you had an USB token, you were able to sign like Elodie, like me. It was completely impossible to say, in fact, if it was a fake or a real one. So the security and authenticity also of the document are very important, because when you are signing a document, you are protecting it. I cannot modify it afterwards. So as soon as it's signed, it's protected. I cannot do anything more on the document. It's completely protected. We are also going all through the digital signatures because it's time saving and efficient. In fact, the business is using it right now. The main usage, if I speak about 6-7 years ago, the first usage I saw in the companies were particularly for HR, to be able to close a contract with the candidates, to make sure that on particularly very complex profiles to recruit, we were able to send an offer quite quickly and to be able to, for the candidate to send the contract quite quickly. It was the very first usage in terms of efficiency for business. But right now, in fact, I can send a document to someone in a few minutes, and we can close a deal in less than 10 minutes. I can send it, sign, I can retrieve the document, sign, and it's done. So very easy, in fact, to close a deal with digital signatures. Also, we have the legal value. Back in the time, it was also a bit complex sometimes to define the legal value, because we were speaking about something very French, or very Belgian, or very English, depending on the country and the kind of things we were using. So when I was speaking about the 1999 in France, why? Because it was very typically French, but as soon as you wanted to sign something with another country in Europe, in fact, the value of the signature was not the same. So now we have some regulations in Europe that are making all the same levels, so we can also work together with the same level of signatures. And the last thing is mobility. As I was saying, in fact, you can sign wherever you want, whenever you want. So it's very easy for you to sign on a document, and we will speak about also a bit later, but the user experience is quite important because you can sign on a mobile, and it's very important for a user to be able to sign on few clicks, depending on the level of signatures you are requesting, but on few clicks you can already sign the document. So electronic signature have become an essential pillar of business. Right now we can see it. We have a lot of requests coming in about companies who want to equip themselves or change the actual solution because they were using a solution a bit old. But it's also based on a solid framework and a legal framework right now. So based on this framework, we can really have a European solution where the digital signatures and identities are very solid.
Clément talk about regulation regarding the electronic signature, but just talk about the regulation with digital identity. And for this, just let's take an example of legal identities such as civil registry, which are now governed by the like electronic signature by the EIDAS regulation. One of the aims of this regulation is to harmonize the mean of electronic identification across the European Union, so that any citizen can access public service in another member state without barriers, and it's very important. And maybe you have heard about the EIDAS V2 framework or initiative, and this is setting new standards. By the end of the 2026, all member states will have to provide their citizens with a digital wallet, and we will talk about this later. This will contain not only identity data, such as a national identity card or passport, but also electronic certificates for attributes as visa, diploma, driving licenses, and more. The official digital identity is based on permanent attributes, such as surname, first name, last name, date, birth, place of birth, and this new framework guarantee free level of guarantee for the identity. I will take the example for France. Maybe it will talk to you. First one, the law is France Connect. This is a law level. The next level is substantial, and it's like France Connect Plus. It's used, for example, in France for vacational training accounts. And the last level, the higher level, is called I, and is in France it's France Identité. And with the new French identity card, you know, the small one, like in other country, equipped now with an NFC chip and with many important information, and could contain, for example, information like carte vitale for the health sector. Countries such as Germany, Estonia, Belgium, Portugal, and more has already introduced this new generation of identity document with secure chip since a long time. This card contains two certificates generally, one for online authentication and another for electronic signature.
Yes, in fact, we have seen in 2014 and then in 2016 the EIDAS regulation coming in, and it was a change, a complete change for all of us. Why? Because in fact we were all using very local and very specific regulation. I was speaking about the one in France, and it was completely new in 2016, where we were able to really have documents used in France, in Belgium, and stuff like that. I've been able to work for Belgium for the last 5 to 6 years, and in fact it was a complete shock at the very beginning, because I was with my ID card and they were with their digital ID cards. First, I had the paper one and they had the digital one. So I've seen many differences between countries. Even in Europe, in fact, we were not well equipped. If I speak as a French citizen, we are not well equipped and we are very late. In fact, if I compare with Estonia, with Germany, or even with Belgium, we are at the very beginning of digital identity. We are all speaking about France Identité right now, but France Identité, when you check it, you need the new ID card to be able to use it. To be able to have the new ID card, you need to make a new one or to declare the one you have already lost. And you have to wait for 3 months to have the ID card, and after you will be able to have France Identité. But France Identité is the very beginning of something, because at the end, it's not completely used yet, and it's mainly for public sector right now to be able to do something with it. So we are all speaking about digital identities, but particularly in France, we are at the very beginning, and we are not on the same level, because if I have a small card, so the new one, and Eric has the other one, the old one, we will not be able to access to the same service levels. So it's not very fair also internally in the country of what we can do. So, and if I speak about Belgium a bit more, so the Belgium citizens have been able to use a digital ID card, I think for the last maybe 10 to 15 years. And right now they have something called It's Me. It's an app on their mobile phone where they are able to store the digital identity. So you were speaking about banks. You go to a bank and you can just show, in fact, your identity, and it will be only with your app. You will have a quick challenge to do. It's 3 different things to validate, because you will have on your screen 3 different icons. You just have to match the icons on the screen of the bank, and you are completely authentified. So in fact, we are sure that it's Clément or Eric in front of the screen, and it's a very easy way, in fact, to make sure we have the right people in front of the right moment and process. So we are not yet there in France. They are still working on it, but we are a bit late. So just let me check my notes. So if I go back to where we are in France, in fact, and also in Belgium and mainly in Europe, the main thing we have to be very careful is the usage of the data and personal data. Because as soon as we speak about digital IDs, identities, in fact, we are speaking about personal data. And it's something where we have to be very careful. Because if I take the example of, let's say, some problem we had in the past with, we had an issue with Corbeil-Essonnes Hospital, stuff like that. In fact, we had a lot of leak of personal data. So we have to be very careful, because as soon as we are speaking about personal data, using personal data, transferring personal data, we can be a target for theft and also for fake identities or stuff like that. So it's very complex to manage user experience, to make sure it's easy for users to make it, but also to be able to store all the personal data in a secure way. Eric, I can let you continue.
Yep. So we talk about digital identity, we talk about signature electronic, because of course there's a strong relationship between both concepts. They are very closely linked, as the validity and the legitimacy of an electronic signature depends mostly of the ability to verify the identity of the signatory. We will take the example of the 3 level of electronic signature, just to understand that what it means. For the simple electronic signature, you probably all know, because you probably use it sometimes, the level of the identity is very low, because there's no check of the identity. So it provides a very limited ability to security and to be suitable for legal significance. Or so if you use it, it's only for example, quotation or things like that, nothing more.
Yeah, if I just got you here. Yeah. In fact, this is what we have seen for the last years. We were only equipped with a simple signature. So you have probably signed HR documents or bank documents with a simple signature. Why? Because we were not able to go a bit up and higher in the level of signatures. Eric will show you afterwards the advanced and qualified level of signatures. But as soon as you were trying to do a signature in the past years, it was very complex to go through the process of ID verification, and we'll speak about it later. But in fact, you were quite obliged to do a simple signature. So it's a low level, but at the same time, you were not really able to do all the other levels.
And second level, the advanced signature. This level requires more stringent identity verification. This provides a good guarantee for the person identity, as in the case of employment contract, outshare contract, like Clément said. It's just a level higher than simple. You just check the ID card or issue a digital certificate. It's a little bit more complicated than simple to do, but it's better. And of course, the last one, and the most important, is the qualified signature. Because the qualified signature is equivalent to a non-written signature. So here you have to do a very strong identity verification. And before the COVID period, it was generally a face-to-face relation. You see the people in real. But during the COVID and after the COVID, we discovered that it's not really as convenient as it should be. And of course, today we have solution to do identity verification remotely, and it's very important. So in France, we have a solution called PEVID for the verification of the identity, but it's only French. It's certified by ANSSI, but it's French. But of course, in Europe, and what is interesting with the eIDAS regulation is that you can use every solution in Europe, and it's automatically recognized in other countries of Europe. You can use other solutions for remote identity verification, not qualified by ANSSI, but with the same value. And it's very simple, and it's very quick, because today you can make a qualified signature in 40, 50 seconds and no more. So now we see the link between both identity and digital signature. Just illustrate with some example. One in the banking sector and one in the healthcare sector, to give you some example of what is possible to do with identity verification and electronic signature.
Yeah, you were speaking about banking sector, so it was perfect for us, because in fact we have decided also to do a little bit of deep dive in the banking sector. As soon as we speak in the banking sector about digital signatures, but also about ID, in fact the KYC is coming in, because we want to be sure that if Clément is trying to open an account, Clément is really Clément, and I'm able to open an account. But in fact, it's for remote account opening, but also for taking out a loan, a credit, everything related to a transaction or a large transaction, you will be requested to verify your ID. And we can see it in our apps. Every time we are trying to do it, and we are at the very beginning of it, but when you open an account right now, you are requested to send or upload your ID card. It's a scan of your ID card. Sometimes it could be a bit higher, so you will be requested to showcase your ID, and you will have the video of your ID. So in fact, some controls will be applied with it, with AI or stuff like that. But you can also have all the biometric controls, face matching, also the technology in it. But it's very important, as soon as we are in the banking sector, to be sure that we are with the right person. But the final things of it, in fact, is to go through the anti-money laundering, to make sure that, in fact, if we open an account, the right person is behind, and we are not facing any problem with AML. So this is why also the banks want to protect themselves, to be sure that Clément is Clément and the account is rightly open. So, in fact, by verifying the identity and making sure that the signature is at the right level, so the qualified one, It's also a question of security, so for the transaction, but also traceability, to make sure everything is completely under control, and to make sure that if we have any problem with the transaction, in fact, the bank will be in a position to say, I'm clean, it was really Clément, or from what I know from Clément, he is Clément. So it can still be a fake, but with all the technology we have right now, in fact, the percentage of chance to have a fake or a deep fake doing it are very low.
Like in the banking sector, in healthcare, of course, the electronic signature and identity verification play a crucial role. And of course, for the security of sensitive data, you can easily understand that. To access remote medical services or information, and of course, to ensure the compliance with the GDPR. Here are some concrete examples of using this technology in healthcare sector. First one, the teleconsultation and the telediagnosis. Of course, the electronic verification made remote consultation secure by ensuring the patients and the healthcare professional are properly authenticated. Second, informed patient consent, which is quite new and now which is totally digitalized. Before any medical treatment, informed consent is crucial and indispensable. For electronic prescription, and also it's important for you, but it's also important for medication, and to be sure that the prescription is authentic and also correctly recorded in your medical file. Of course, another example, the online access to medical test result, or healthcare professional access to hospital system. In France, we use a card for to identify the professional, which is called a CPS. And it's very important to identify them. But also, you can use this technology for home care contract of all types you need, and for ensuring that all parties have signed and agree all the terms. So these applications demonstrate how electronic identity verification and electronic signature can simplify healthcare processes while improving the security of sensitive data, traceability, and compliance.
Yeah, so in fact, as soon as we speak about eIDAS and digital transaction, the main thing is to be sure we can strengthen all the digital transaction. So if we have three keywords really important, is security, privacy, and compliance. But in fact, it's very important to check the identity. So identity verification and security are very important as soon as we speak about ID verification and digital signatures. So it will go through strong authentication to make sure we have the right people in front of us, fraud prevention too, and also what I was saying a bit before, but to protect all the sensitive and personal data. Because in fact, we can all do an ID check, but if I do an ID check and I let the ID card on top of my desk, in fact, I will have a leak about personal data, so I will have some issues. And digitally, it's quite the same. We have to be sure that we can close everything and make sure that all the data are securely stored. So it's very important also to be able to go through the identity and verification and privacy, because in fact, as soon as we want to go through identity verification process, we have to go through the data minimization, making sure that we reduce the numbers of sensitive data we share, because we need to share only the minimum and the one we need at the end. We need to control over personal data. It's very important. But also we need to anonymize and pseudonymize. Because as soon as we are storing personal data, we have to make sure that if we have a leak, it's a small one and not a big one when we have seen in the past. So we can see that many regulations impose strict requirements on it. We have the GDPR, eIDAS is very stringent also on it. But the eIDAS is particularly stringent if we compare with e-sign Act, for example, in the US, or even Certes in Switzerland. eIDAS is one of the most stringent in the world. We cannot play with it. It's quite the same for the GDPR, because GDPR and eIDAS are very closely linked. But also, and this is what we are seeing right now more and more, eIDAS, GDPR also linked with what we are calling so the AML, the anti-money laundering, and the KYC process. So everything is linked and are putting us in a situation where we have to be very close to digital identities, but also close to sensitive data.
The identity verification must meet three key requirements. The first one is increase security without compromising privacy. The verification processes must be robust enough to counter threats, while ensuring that personal information is not overly exploited. Privacy and compliance. As we said, laws such as GDPR requires not only proper identity verification, but also strict respect for privacy rights. And last one, regulatory compliance, security, and privacy are not only recommended practices, but they are also often mandatory by national and international law. And finally, we can add something more. We can add the user experience. Because the simplicity and the fluidity of verification process are essential to ensure the adoption and success.
Yes, user experience. As soon as we speak about user experience, in fact, and particularly with ID verification, and when we use ID verification, we are speaking about advanced or qualified signature. It's very linked, and we can speak about certain best practice to put in place those kind of solutions. So first one is to ensure strong authentication. It could be an MFA or whatever you want, but strong authentication is very important. The second one is to be able to choose the right level of e-signatures. So depending on what you want to sign, what you want to do, in fact, it could be a simple signature as soon as there is not a high risk on the document, but as soon as you are signing a multi-million contract with a counterparty, you have to go through a qualified signature to make sure you have the right people in front of you. Also, as I was saying, to minimize data collection, so just ask what you need to ask and do not ask more, because you will be in trouble if you have any leak of data or personal data. It will be quite complex to explain why you have collected more than requested. You have to ensure so all the data are encrypted. So it's something on our side we are doing at the very beginning. It's encrypted by nature, but in fact, all the solutions are not doing it. And if you do not encrypt it and you have a leakage of data, in fact, the data will be read very easily. You have to be compliant with regulation, so GDPR, eIDAS. In fact, as soon as you are working with a TSP, so a trust service provider, you are sure they have gone through all the tests and audits to be what we are calling a TSP. So we have the EU trust list in Europe, so this is European Union trust list, where you can find all the providers that are accredited to do it, and particularly on the digital ID and signatures. Oh, sorry. And at the end, it's also the user experience, because we have been speaking about a lot of different things, but if your user is not able to do it quite quickly, Eric said at one point, right now we are able to go through an ID verification process and a qualified signature under 40 seconds. If I speak about what was done in the past, it was 20 minutes or 10 minutes to do the ID check and after to go through the signature. But right now, in fact, we can do it under 40 seconds. And it's from the ID verification to the certificate creation and to retrieve the document signed. So it could be very quick, but it has to be very easy also for the final user to do it. What I always say is if my father is able to do it, everyone will be able to do it. But I was speaking also about the internet payment with the SMS. It has to be quite similar. It has to be very straightforward in order to be sure that, in fact, we are going through the process very easily, and it does not require user training, because if a user is a bit lost on your interface and cannot do it, you are dead. The signature will never be done.
Okay, so only 6 minutes, so we have to go quickly now. And so just if we have a quick look on the future trends and innovation. Of course, one is artificial intelligence, of course. And the artificial intelligence will help in intelligence automation. It will facilitate the automation of identity verification process by analyzing the document with greater accuracy. And of course, it will improve the detection of anomaly and forgeries in real time. Advanced biometrics, facial recognition, for example, or voice recognition, will be enhanced by artificial intelligence. Improve fraud detection also with IA, because the IA will analyze vast amount of data to identify suspicious behavior and unusual pattern, dramatically improving fraud detection and prevention. Personalized user experience, and the AI systems will be adapted to identify verification method, to user preference and behavior. This will make processes faster and more intuitive while maintaining the level of security. Automated compliance. Of course, AI will continuously monitor regulatory change, and we have a lot of change every day, and automatically adapt identity verification and e-signature processes to ensure compliance with legislation.
Yeah, AI is very important on our side, because if I compare an ID verification and by a fraud detector, let's say someone very trained on fraud who is able to check all the potential fraud on an ID card, if it's a human doing it, it will take 10, 15 minutes to do all the checks. With AI, 10, 15 seconds, and we have all the checks, up to 40 to 45 tests, and it will be also trained automatically with all the control going in. It will train himself, and at the end we have something very efficient. So the AI is also a very large part of the user experience, because it's very easy to use it, but also it's very quick. And as soon as it's going faster, in fact, the user adoption is going also a bit higher. So we have 4 minutes left, so I just want to let some room also for the question. If I go directly to the conclusion, in fact, if we are speaking about delivering IDs, so digital IDs, ID verification and digital signature, you have to focus on very specific aspects. So you have to use strong but accessible strong authentication. It's easy to say, but not very easy to do, because in fact, we have to adopt methods that combines a lot of different controls, but are still very easy to use for a final user. It has to be compliant with the current regulation. We have seen eIDAS in 2016. We are seeing eIDAS V2 coming in. We will see something else in the next future, because we are seeing the wallet coming in. Digital IDs also are rising. So something new will come, but on our side, as a provider of this kind of solution, we have to be sure that we can also adapt in real time and propose to our customers something completely aligned in real time with the regulation. As I was saying a bit before, also minimize personal data collection, because it will be a drama if you store a lot of personal data, and this is what we are seeing at the end of the day. We have been asking my customer, I want to collect this. No, do not do that, because you will have some trouble at the end. And one of the last topic is a smooth and very easy user interface and experience, because in the past, as I was saying before, it was very complex to go through this kind of process. And if you want to increase the user adoption, you have to be very, very careful with the user experience right now. And also, this is something I said, but work with TSP, so the trust service providers, because if you speak about in your internal companies about digital identity, ID verification, or digital signature, only go through TSP. If you are working in Europe, mainly go through TSP, so trust service providers. Why? Because as soon as you will have a trouble with a signature or a document signed, and if it was not done with a TSP, in fact, you cannot do anything. The document will not be recognized as valid. So maybe it will be an issue for a contract, for a multi-year deal, But if it's something done through a TSP, you are completely covered. After, you can have an issue with someone who said, I did not sign, it was not me, but you will have a lot of different things to be able to prove you had the transaction, it has been signed, it has been signed properly, the document has not been modified, so you will have an audit trail of the transaction. But please be sure that you are using a TSP, because sometimes on internet you can see, you can do an electronic signature very easily or quickly, but in fact it's not a TSP, and if you want to use it and have an issue, you are dead. Do you have any question? Yes?
You mentioned European harmonization, and I'm thinking about B2B, so how businesses will work together. Do you see convergence on e-signatures across businesses? You mentioned TSP, but what are the troubles today to get to one system that all?
We have one system. We have the eIDAS in Europe, as eIDAS is the most stringent one. In fact, it can be used almost everywhere. But it's a question of user experience at the end, because if I speak about the e-sign act, you can tick a box, it's signed. But as soon as you want to go through this kind of request for, if I say, let's say you want to sign a document between a US company and a French one, in fact, if the French one is sending it, it will be over eIDAS. So it will be maybe with a SMS OTP or email OTP or something higher. But in front of it, you will have an American company and you say, oh, why? Okay, SMS OTP is okay. But as soon as you want to go a bit higher in terms of controls, they will be a bit lost. And in fact, they will not be able to do it because sometimes the AI is not trained for the US cards or stuff like that. So we have one in Europe, but we still don't have one for the world. But eIDAS is the most stringent, so it could be used. But at the end, you have a lot of solutions like ours that is valid for the US e-sign act, but also for eIDAS. So it can be used almost everywhere. You will still have some very specific stuff like in Singapore or stuff like that where they have very local regulation. But at the end, as soon as you say it was one of the most stringent like eIDAS, you are covered. But it will take some time to have just one, for sure.
Cool. Maybe a final question for me. Linking to my introduction, but in the world, which is the most advanced country you think when it comes to digital identities? I don't know.
It's a good question. It's a good question because I would say it's a European one, maybe Estonia. Estonia was the first one, I think, to be able to do a large use of digital ID. Because there are not a lot. Belgium also, and because there are 10 million people. So in fact, when you want to move 10 million people, it's easier to move 60 million people. But from experience, what I've seen with Belgium, in terms of digital ID usage, it's very, very, very simple to use. If I compare the first usage I did about France Identité and the one in Belgium called It's Me, I prefer to use It's Me. I can't because I'm not a Belgian citizen, but it's very easy. Some countries like those ones are very advanced. We are normally in Europe obliged to converge and to be in the same position with the eIDAS 2.
In 2026.
Yeah, when I say obliged, because it was already the case in 2018. We were obliged to do it in 2018, but it has been a bit postponed.
Always a bit late.
Yeah, but for I will say those two countries.
Beautiful. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Thank you.